All right, everyone, good morning. It's Tuesday morning, and Tony is back with me to talk all things Celtic. Tony smiles. We're over the cup final anyway. No discussing that. Okay, we might discuss it a wee bit. But how are you?
I'm all right. Moving on. That's what you do, isn't it? You just roll with the punches. A punch in the guts, you get up and you move on. It's Tuesday. It happened on Saturday. Let's look forward. It's how we react now, isn't it? So there you go.
Henrik McLaughlin taking tentative steps back onto social media 3 days after the unfortunate event. A bit like Celtic, because I noticed that Celtic haven't tweeted, I think, basically at all since full time. They posted about the events in Liverpool yesterday that were pretty nasty. So it's good to see the club tweeting about that. But yeah, stuff to discuss as well, Tony.
Indeed, yeah. So listen, you never. It's never nice to lose, but I think you learn more in defeat, don't you? And what you're about and where you're going to go, and maybe it's the kind of jolt to the senses that maybe Celtic needed, not to coast. I said for a long time the most important games that are facing Celtic now are the Champions League qualifiers, and you need to get ready for them. We've spoken about that at length, but I was delighted for a couple of people on Saturday. One of them being the Aberdeen PR guy, a guy called Malcolm Panton, who's a wonderful fellow and can't do enough for you. And the big hug with him, and he turned to me and he said, "I've no idea how we did that." And I said, "I neither of the Celtic supporters and your supporters, but enjoy it while you can." And then he said, "It's okay for you. You're going home." And in a wonderfully understated way, he gave me the line of the day and said, "I now need to plan an open top bus celebration." I just thought
throw that in.
He just threw it in, yeah. And he walked away, and the stars in your eyes, and he walked away into the distance in the smoke. And I just thought, you know what? There you go. It's a problem, I guess, every PR of their club would love to have. So, as I say, I was delighted for a guy like him. He's been doing it for years and years, and he's always very kind, extends the red carpet, excuse the pun, whenever you go there. So, so for people like that, it means a lot. And for people like myself and yourself, Celtic will be back at Hampden pretty soon, don't you? So Aberdeen don't know when they'll next win the Scottish Cup. So I was very, very congratulatory towards him, and he was a very happy man, as you can imagine.
I think, as Josh pointed out, the Celtic players and coaching staff were incredibly magnanimous in defeat on Saturday, which is what you want your club to be like. I certainly remember another team who you can probably all guess basically storming up the tunnel, I think this time last year. So I thought that was a touch of class from Celtic.
Real class, and he was asked about it and he commented on it, didn't he? He said you win with humility and dignity, and you lose with the same qualities and characteristics. So I thought that was excellent that the Celtic players did that, and the manager was very magnanimous. So it's all the things you love to see about how your club is represented both on and off the park. And lots of tales from Aberdeen supporters on social media saying how the Celtic supporters were very congratulatory towards them, and were very good-natured with them after the final when they were leaving and stuff like that. So I thought that was wonderful to read and see as well.
Yeah. Okay. Today's video brought to you by Seneca Medical Group. They are with us until the end of next season, so the end of the 2025-26 season. They've got clinics in Glasgow, Edinburgh and Aberdeen. That's Seneca Medical Group, number one hair transplantation clinic in the UK. So a big thanks to them for their support. We still have our Martin O'Neill competition, Win Lunch with the legendary Celtic manager. You can be in with a chance of doing that and get 6 months of access for £1. It's definitely an offer worth taking up, Tony.
Yeah, that's an offer worth taking up, but you'll probably not get a word in with Martin O'Neill, but you probably like that anyway, because you could just sit and listen to the man all day. So he's got some wonderful stories from every club that he's been at, most notoriously Nottingham Forest with Brian Clough, and obviously Celtic days, which any Celtic supporter would want to hear from. So yeah, that's, as I say, I've said before, I rage in that I can't go on that lunch with him. So, but hey, ho hum, it is what it is.
Result last night, Livingston beat Ross County, so Livingston will play in the Premiership next season. The knock-on effect of that is that we're going to have 3 plastic pitches in the league. So I think I worked out earlier, Celtic, this wasn't very difficult to work out. Celtic are going to play between 3 and 6 matches on plastic pitches in the league next season. So you've got Livingston, Falkirk and Kilmarnock. As things stand, next season is the final year of artificial pitches. As things stand, those 3 teams will have to get rid of them, which kind of has me questioning why Livingston have just relayed a new artificial pitch for just one season. Maybe they plan on getting relegated next year, I don't know. But that seems a little bit strange. But anyway, 3 teams in plastic next season's not great, but the following year, hopefully, we're without them totally. Although I think Falkirk are appealing all of this stuff.
Celtic have not had their problems to seek on plastic, have they? Let's be honest. Livingston being one of those places where for a while they just hated visiting. In the recent past, it's been a pretty happy hunting ground for them. They've kind of got to grips with it and learned how to deal with it. And yeah, I guess every neutral supporter last night was kind of the devil in deep blue sea stuff, wasn't it? You know, trips to Dingwall or trips to Livingston, if you're, you know, from the West Coast, it was kind of one of those, wasn't it? But and I said this recently, but it just reminded me of that great intro by a former Daily Record journalist, Jim Blair. I think everybody was thinking, if there's any justice in the world, both these teams would lose. somebody else would go up. You know,
Partick Thistle.
Yeah. I think lots of people were hoping that Partick Thistle could see it through, or even Ayr United for that matter. But listen, it is Livingston. Congratulations to them. They're back up. It's no mean feat to go back down and bounce back up in a year. Ross County have kind of been hanging on, haven't they, for a couple of seasons? Maybe it was their time to go down and regroup and come back up if they can manage to do that. But whatever your thoughts on it, you're going to be playing on plastic for quite a substantial number of games next season, and get your head around it. Got to get used to it.
Yeah, we get a big support at Livingston, which is the positive, I think. And I mean, Livingston on grass the following year would be pretty good. I just hope that this all goes through and there's no delaying of the ban. But you never know with these things. Celtic Park getting a new pitch as well, by the looks of things. Certainly they've got it dug up at the moment. Pitch wasn't great this season. Times, winter months. I remember, I think maybe the Club Bruges game or the Young Boys game, I remember it being a bit bobbly. And they brought in, this was the first year of the SPFL handing out an award for the best pitch. And Rangers actually won it. So they did win something this season after all. And you know what focuses the minds inside Celtic Park? Rangers beating us at something. So I wonder if that's linked to the club trying to improve the pitch. Because for being the biggest club in the country with the most money by far, we've not got the best pitch in the country, and we've not had the best pitch in the country for a long, long time.
I think Brendan Rodgers has mentioned that previously, hasn't he? About the state of the pitch or the threadbare nature of the pitch at certain times in the season. And it's not conducive if you're wanting to play that slick, fast, attacking football. It can hinder you sometimes, I guess, and I suppose maybe that's been prevalent this season at times with Celtic. So maybe they're getting to the root cause of it and seeing if they can relay the surface and make it better. I don't care about awards like Best Pitch, to be honest, Hamish. I just care about what's being played on that surface, and if the team are good enough, then they'll be able to play on most surfaces anyway. But yeah, I think it's been noticeable. And when the manager brings it up, then it's clearly something that's up to them a wee bit. And if Celtic have the money and the wherewithal, financial wherewithal to do something about that, then clearly they're going about that business, trying to make sure that the pitch is as slick as it can be and in good nick for as many of the months of the season as possible.
Yeah, definitely. I was going to crack some sort of joke about the Rangers fans being off to George Square for a party after winning that award, but that's a bit much, isn't it? I definitely shouldn't do that. Okay, Cameron Carter-Vickers, he's welcomed the end of the season. This is on our website, by the way. Welcomed the end of the season with open arms. He's called it a long season. He says, my body probably needs a break. And mentally, it's also important. It's a chance to recharge until the end of June now. And I'll use every day of that. So he's not going away with the US for the upcoming international break. Neither is Austin Trusty. So CCV getting a bit of a break. I mean, I think we worked out early, played 44 games over the
44
season.
out of 57, yeah.
So 44 out of 57, the joint highest that he's had in a season with his first campaign at the club on loan. So 44 out of 57, it's not a bad tally for me, given that he's had a few kind of lingering niggles. I mean, some people I think make out as if he's missed half the season.
He's had a couple of lingering issues, hasn't he? Let's be honest. And lots of people have said because of that, he's not looked his usual self. So it shows you how high the bar that he set in those previous seasons that people are saying he's fallen below that. But he's been as reliable as ever for me. I think he's the glue that holds that whole defence together. You just wish you could find someone in his ilk to play alongside him, because we've chopped and changed defensive partners, and Austin Trusty, Scales, Nawrocki's even had a shot as well. And, Stephen Welsh during his time too, just never really had a settled partner for him. And I always say you breathe a sigh of relief whenever you see Cameron Carter-Vickers' name on that team sheet and you play him alongside another. But I would just like to see a more settled defensive partnership for next season. But let's be honest, we have a plethora of centre backs at the club. We'll need to offload 2 or 3 before I think Celtic would even entertain signing another defender. But I still think we need one, Hamish.
So where are we with the guys that are there at the moment? I mean, Liam Scales finishes the season as Carter-Vickers' partner. I think general consensus is people would probably be looking, this sounds horrible, but looking for Liam Scales not to be a first team choice next season. Nothing against Liam Scales, but I think, potentially you're looking for an upgrade in that position. Austin Trusty could be better in his second season. I don't think it was an awful first season. I mean, he was decent enough, but I think there's question marks over Trusty as well, and the fact that he couldn't get back into the team at the end of the season is a little bit concerning. I think Mike Nawrocki looks really good, and if I was the manager, I'd be putting him next to Carter-Vickers and seeing how that goes. But we know Brendan Rodgers likes a left-sided defender. You've got Lagerbielke there, no future. Welsh there, no future. Dane Murray, he's obviously a bit away at this stage. Do you go into the market and sign another centre-back?
I think it's all premised on who leaves, isn't it? Lagerbielke probably leave. Got to think Welsh would probably leave. Mike Nawrocki, I would imagine, might have a look at him in pre-season, but if something comes in that's, tempting, I think he could go, and then you might see them obviously go into the... I think you're looking at Trusty and Scales being decent backups because they've proven that they can play at a certain level. Even in the Champions League, they gave some decent performances, in Bergamo in particular, that kind of thing. And so, they can step up to the plate when required, but still a question mark over them. You don't look at the two of them and think that's a permanent central defensive partner for Cameron Carter-Vickers. You still have that wee niggle in the back of your mind, don't you, that both are prone to lapses in concentration, mistakes, call it what you like. So I think if Lagerbielke, Nawrocki and the likes of Welsh are offloaded, then Celtic and Brendan Rodgers would be liable to say, right, I need another centre-back to go into to go into European competition and compete the same way they did last season. It's all premised on these qualifiers. You have to be ready. And, you just remember you used to go into qualifiers and Neil Beaton would fill in at centre-half. You just want to take all that risk out of stuff by having a nailed-on central defensive partnership there that will get you through the qualifiers. No problem, no doubts about it. And as I said, everything is now premised on building to those matches. For me, it is anyway.
Because I think the thing for me, you look at our potential back four next season. Alistair Johnson, right back. Kieran Tierney, left back. Cameron Carter-Vickers, right centre-back. like that's incredibly strong. If you can find a solid partner, like we always say it, but if you can find a Carter Vickers to go alongside Carter Vickers, and clearly that's not an easy task. Carter Vickers, for me, Cameron Carter Vickers is the best centre back I've ever seen play for Celtic. Obviously, Virgil van Dijk was amazing. But in terms of what they've given Celtic, CCV is the best I've seen. I didn't see Mialbi and guys like that. So it's difficult to find someone of that calibre. We're incredibly fortunate to have Cameron Carter Vickers. But like, you don't want to waste having Carter Vickers and not have a brilliant partner to go beside. I mean, Carol Starfelt, I think, was great. If you get someone of that level, or even possibly a wee notch above that, to go alongside Carter Vickers, Alistair Johnson, Kieran Tierney, like that's a Champions League level backline there.
But then it comes down to your scouting, doesn't it? Virgil van Dijk we got from Groningen.
Surely someone, I mean, I know it's hard to say there's a Virgil van Dijk out there, but surely, you know.
Carol Starfelt we got from Ruben Kazan. So I've said before, you have to target teams where players are gettable, and obviously you'd be doing your due diligence and your homework and your scouting. And I think because the players are there, it's just about finding them, isn't it? And I always look to the other side of the city, and whenever they've needed defenders, they always seem to unearth somebody, don't they? I'm not saying that they've been great, but historically they've brought in defenders at the drop of a hat when they've needed them. Some of them have been excellent. Some of them, there've been nothing to write home about. But whenever they've needed that position filled, they seem to have, unearth somebody. So I'm just sort of saying, in these leagues, I always feel that you should target the kind of Champions League teams, or the teams that are trying to get into the Champions League but will comfortably make the Europa League qualification. And all these leagues, like clubs from like 4th to 10th, that kind of. Virgil van Dijk's a classic example from Groningen. You try to tell me that in the Dutch league, Spanish league, French league, or whatever league, Swedish league, you've not got a list of defenders that can fit that bill. Carol Starfelt obviously came from Russian football as well, and I'm sure Celtic are doing that. I'm not saying anything that probably new to them, but if they were to ask you, Hamish, to go and find a left-sided central defender, that's what you'd be doing, isn't it? You'd be watching these leagues and saying, right, okay, who are the teams that are, because the top teams will price you out, or they'll try and price you out, won't they? So you go down to a sliding scale, and then you say, right, affordability, competence, ability, and the players are there. If you concentrated on a certain kind of team who are competing at a certain kind of level, but with the potential to grow at a club like Celtic, because as you say, 3 out of those 4 defenders next year are nailed on, and their quality. Go and find the final piece of that defensive jigsaw, because he is there. He's out there.
Yeah, I mean, my fear would be that, potentially someone like Mike Naropski might have been what you would look at, a player playing for Legia Warsaw, a big club, rave reviews, and that hasn't necessarily worked out for whatever reason. The club had an opportunity last year to do it with Austin Trusty. Listen, Austin Trusty, we talk about, Arne Engels, we're going to come on to Arne Engels. We talk about Arne Engels having a big second season. Why wouldn't that apply to Trusty as well? It's just, you just feel with defenders sometimes that they really need to start well. The one point I would make, like we tend to go young. Obviously, we tend to go young with virtually every signing we make. I wouldn't be against Celtic looking at a more experienced player. I mean, why can't we sign a player in their early to mid 30s to play at centre back, an experienced player to go alongside Cameron Carter Vickers? It always just seems to be kind of up and coming players taking a real risk on them. Why not someone maybe down south who's played? I've not got any names at the top of my head right now, but someone who's played in the Premier League for a number of years, who could come in and just be really solid. It doesn't have to be a player we're going to sell on for 15, 20 million in a couple of years. It just needs to be someone really solid, who's strong, doesn't get pushed around, and can form a really strong partnership with Carter Vickers.
Yeah, because your ambitions are to do well in Europe. You need that you need that back door bolted, and you got tumbled out of Europe or crashed out of Europe with the most bread and butter goal you're ever going to see at that level of European competition. You know, Bayern Munich didn't have to work hard to get that goal, did they? It was a Hail Mary ball in the last minute of a football match, which should have been, but wasn't comfortably dealt with. And you've gone to Bergamo and repelled last season's Europa League winners, you know, excellently by doing all those basics right. And you know, and you quite rightfully mentioned the likes of Dabrowski, Lager, Bielka. These guys were, you know, what I was talking about there. They were clearly identified as players playing for those kind of clubs. But something has happened where they've not cut the mustard. And as you say, I think you have to hit the ground running when you're a defender at Celtic. Even the dog agrees. That's something that in the arena that Celtic want to compete in, it's unforgiving if you don't. You know, you end up that's what happens. You know, they get caned against Dortmund because everything defensively was a shambles. You know, that's what happens. Teams at that level will rip you apart like that. And I think Brendan Rodgers thought those days were gone. But the one thing for me about that was Celtic took those learnings, and it was an example of a team that learned, said the right things, we're going to learn from this, but Celtic did learn. And that's what I was optimistic and buoyed by. And I just think I'm really excited about this defence next season with the three guys that you've named. Just go and get somebody, as you say. If he's experienced, great, and knows the game and knows... First and foremost, Hamish, I've always said this, I just want my defenders to defend. Right? Just defend.
Like Carter Vickers.
Yeah, just defend. When the ball's in the air, win it. Even if it's on the deck, you know, deal with it. We can work and flair and finesse and all the passing out from the back stuff later. But see, when you master the art of defending, then I think the kind of rest follows. But I think this European run in particular has shown you need defenders first and foremost, a no-nonsense kind of guy at the back who just, you know what, a Bobo type, you know, somebody who's intimidating and, you know, wasn't the greatest of footballers, but my goodness, he could defend.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. The lessons learned from Dortmund were immense. Clean sheet in Zagreb, clean sheet in Bergamo. Okay, Villa Park was, you know, a bit of a tough one with the start we made there, and half a minute from a clean sheet away to Bayern Munich. So I think looking at next season, it's going to be really interesting to see how the team build on that. You want to talk about Arne Engels?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've loved what Arne Engels has produced this season, but I just felt that on Saturday that was his stage to really boss it, and he didn't. And there's kind of therein lieth the rub. As much as Engels is young, he's only 21. He's produced some really good football this season. There have been occasions when he hasn't, and I think that's led to the kind of bandwagon jumping on Arne Engels. But yeah, and I agree with that. But my overarching point was Brendan Rodgers said this about Rio Hatate, that it took a while to get into his head. And he had a way of playing that Rio Hatate obviously then said to Rio Hatate, I play this way, and this is how you're going to function within the team, my team. And I think as well, Arne Engels, hopefully he's been listening to the manager, who he's the next head that the manager really has to get into. They say, right, this is how it is. You've had a year of bedding in. There's been some good things. And I think the progress report or report card on Arne Engels would be good, but can do better.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. And Kozumini's an inch away from bending one in the bottom corner on Saturday. That was his most meaningful contribution.
We're talking about a treble, and he's getting a lot of credit for that moment. So, I mean, it's fine margins.
Yeah, and again, you know, Sloops hit the bar, Daisemedas ran through and scored and missed the kind of chance he buried quite a lot of the time during the season. So it was fine margins, but I just think that I think the manager now needs to get into Engels' head the way he has with Hatate, because he clearly, the penny dropped with Hatate and he was producing some of his finer stuff. And that's arguably what Celtic missed on Saturday, that risk-taking, that kind of, play those kind of passes. And I just felt Arne Engels played in the periphery and didn't involve himself enough for me.
Yeah, that's. Yeah,
because that's your stage. You should be demanding the ball at every opportunity. And if it doesn't work, it shouldn't deter you from doing it again, because that's what Hatate does, isn't it? And I just felt that was lacking in Engels on Saturday for me. But there's no doubt he's a talented footballer and a talented individual. And I'm just hoping that it is the second season where he just thinks, right, I'm going to grab this by the scruff of the neck. And there's that argument as well that he's maybe not a wide midfielder. He's more suited to being a central midfielder. You can argue the toss on that one all day. But yeah, as I say, I just feel that that's the next head the manager has to get into, Arne Engels' head, because I think the talent's definitely there. It's just about bringing that out, where days like Saturday become his stage and he owns it, and that's his platform. Because I think he's got the potential to do that.
I think that's it for me. Impact games more, and to be honest, he's not the only one you can say about. We've got a comment a minute ago, Bernardo as well. And to be honest, I think this applies to Bernardo as well. We see it at times from both of them, what they can do. They've both provided big moments for us in their time at the club. I just don't think we get it consistently enough from either. But, just touching on Engels, next season, you seize the moment, be the main man for us, drive that game forward. We know what Arne Engels can do. We know what kind of player he is now. He gets around the park. He can kind of, bit of an all-rounder. He can tackle. He can get the ball. He can move it on. He can score goals. He hasn't scored enough for me in terms of from open play. I think he's maybe only got a couple from open play. I think that's not good enough as a Celtic midfielder. But yeah, you just want to see him running games. You want to see him involved and stepping up.
But remember, one of the first things that Brendan Rodgers said when he came back was about Matt O'Reilly, and he said he doesn't score enough goals and he doesn't assist enough for a man of his talent. Now, I'm hoping, again, that's what I'm talking about, getting into somebody's head. This is the thing Brendan Rodgers will be saying to him. For a man of your talent, look at that column and that column. That has to vastly improve. It vastly improved with Matt O'Reilly, because Matt O'Reilly, the first thing he said was, I love this guy. I love what he's selling. So I'm thinking the same thing could happen here. And Matt O'Reilly ended up going for 25 million quid. Right,
Matt O'Reilly's second season, Tony, he didn't score his first goal until mid-February.
Yeah. Incredible, eh? Absolutely incredible, right? And then the flip side of that, he became a goal-scoring machine, an assist machine, under Rodgers the first time around, didn't he? The first season of his second spell. And, so again, that going back to that, getting into someone's head, and I think these are the conversations Brendan Rodgers will have with Arne Engels. It's been a decent season. Decent at a club like this can get you through, because Celtic won the league and they won the League Cup. But you should be sitting there with a treble, and here's why. Got to improve here and here and here. And I think that's what will happen with Arne Engels. It's just that's not. It's more an observation about Arne Engels than the criticism per se, because I think the talent's there. He just has to nurture that and become that player that we all think he is. And you've noticed that I've not mentioned his price once, because I don't care about his price. Got nothing to do with that. Got nothing to do with that. I just need to see more from him in terms of ability, because I know it's there because I watched him in the Allianz Arena and I thought he was fantastic that night. And I've watched him at various parts of this season and think, yeah, you can be the real deal here, but he's not consistent enough, Hamish, as you've just said.
I think that's what I want from him. I want him to. I want a bit of arrogance from Arne Engels next season. We've seen it. We've seen it at points in the season. He's put a few penalties away and he's been given a bit to the goalkeeper, trying to psych him out. And remember I think the Hearts stuff when his first game when he scored the goal. And I remember a game against Dundee United. Well, it was a game we won the league at Tannadice, and he kind of barged a Dundee United player off the park And I think he went and helped him up, which was good. But just a bit of that, you play for Celtic, you're the most expensive player in Celtic history. And I know, we're not mentioning the price, but you use that as a positive. You're a big name. You play for the biggest club in the country. Go and show it every single week. I agree with you. I think it will come. I'm pretty sure of that. But equally, the pressure's on him next season, because I think some people will forgive first campaign. It's tough for him coming to a new club, totally different club from Augsburg, where he was previously, totally different from Club Brugge. Second season, we kind of have to see it pretty quickly, I think. But I hope we do, and I think we will.
And I'm bearing in mind he's only 21, so he, time's on his side. But yeah, I just think that, there was that great quote from Brendan Rodgers to him that it's not a holiday camp, this one game a week with Augsburg. And again, I think that was something that, seeped into him gradually, because it was that, and I talk about this a lot, about that constant need for Celtic players to peak and peak and keep peaking. And sometimes it doesn't happen. Saturday was a classic example of that. They just, whatever happened, they just couldn't raise it. And, and also as well, there's a lot of, whenever these games go wrong, there's a lot of lashing out that it's the manager's fault, it's certain players' fault and all that. It's not the time for that. It's a time to regroup and then say, right, where are we headed now? Because the next biggest thing for Celtic is those Champions League qualifiers. You've got to get all your ducks in a row and have a team capable of not just winning those qualifiers, but breezing them and making sure that there is no impediment, and make it easy on yourself, and take the hurt and the lessons that I've learned from Saturday's loss. And, I think long term it might not be the worst thing to happen to Celtic. I'm trying to paint a silver lining on that picture, and hopefully that's what happens. Because I'm going to mention this or something. I also felt that the Celtic fans were very subdued on Saturday, Hamish.
I heard a few people saying that.
That there was almost, when Celtic scored the opening goal, it was kind of suspended animation of a celebration. It wasn't.
Even the players didn't celebrate the opening goal.
And then maybe a lot of them were, it was strange the way it eventually crawled into the back of the net, or kept into the back of the net. But I just felt there was I don't know, and maybe it was that whole year of the underdog thing. We spoke about it on Friday. You said you thought it would be a lot tighter, and I said the only thing stopping Celtic from winning it would be Celtic, and they kind of did, didn't they? So, but again, you lick your wounds, you take your dumps and your medicine, and you say, congratulations, Aberdeen, but hopefully that it does make you bigger and better and stronger going forward, and focuses and refocuses and sharpens the minds, because Celtic have got a big qualifier to negotiate, and that for me is, that a lot of what you're doing and your plans moving forward will be premised on winning that tie.
Yeah. And we're going to be seeded for that tie, everyone. So that's at least a bit of good news. Okay, we'll leave it there for today. Thanks very much, Tony. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. More from us and me tomorrow on here. More on the website. Loads of stuff going on there at the moment at the end of the season. So please get involved there, and I'll catch up with you this time tomorrow.